Hello everyone, thank you for joining us to take a look at a new solution that's been developed by our friends at Data8 that helps to find, fix and prevent duplicated records in Microsoft Dynamics 365 and CRM 2016. I'm Warren Butler, Head of Marketing at Preact, and I'm delighted to be joined by Matt Beard and Rich Davis from Data8. In a recent webinar with Data8, we talked about a series of CRM data quality challenges and the importance of addressing these before the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, comes into force in May 2018. A major obstacle to better data quality that featured prominently in this earlier session is duplicated records. There are many reasons why these occur, but frequent examples include user error, poor data management, or inadequate rules in Dynamics. In the context of GDPR, duplicated records can result in conflicting data, and an example of this might be consent detail, which creates confusion as to whether contact really has opted in to receive an organization's communications. GDPR is first and foremost about protecting individual rights and their personal data, but there's no getting away from the fact that the UK Information Commissioner's Office will have significantly greater powers from next May to issue fines for data breaches and non-compliance. This means that the need to improve CRM data quality and have robust processes to deal with duplicate records has really never been more important. But GDPR isn't the only factor here, and organizations are already suffering the costs of duplicated data. And sending multiple mailings to an individual because of record duplication causes both reputation damage as well as increased costs. This is harmful to user adoption also if Dynamics users begin to lose confidence in the quality of data that they're working with. And as this small selection of statistics highlights, poor quality data reduces the impact of marketing campaigns, has a negative impact on turnover, and it compromises the insights that business leaders are able to gain from their data. Duplicated records are a major factor behind all of these problems. So I think it's an opportune time to bring in Matt, who will introduce Data8's new Duplicare solution and demonstrate how this helps Dynamics administrators and marketing teams especially to find, fix and avoid duplicate records. So let me hand the presentation across to Matt. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Warren. There we go, and show my screen. So hopefully this is an introduction to Duplicare. So this is our way of fixing, preventing and finding duplicates all within a dynamic CRM system. So instead of presentations, let's just dive straight into a CRM system instead. So this is a dynamic CRM system, and the three stages I'd like to go through is fixing, preventing and finding. So I'm going to start with fixing and then we'll move on from there. So if I just jump into some leads here, one of the issues that we've often seen with CRM is to merge records, you often have the problem where you can only do 2 records at a time. That can often be cumbersome and will take some time. So we've decided to rewrite that. So instead of having to do 2 and do a merge and then merge that result one with another, we've now replaced the merge button with our own, and we've got a merge button here, still visible with 4 selected. So I can now tap this merge. It'll pop me up with a new window, and this is essentially replacing the merge screen that is in the CRM system. The 4 columns you'll see are the 4 records I selected, and you'll also see an extra 5th column. This 5th column is what the output record will look like once you've completed the merge. So you can get an idea of exactly what data you've got available to you. It's been pre-populated with a set of rules that are configurable by a CRM admin or a project manager or whoever's going to be trying to manage your duplicates in the system. And we've took a best guess based on those rules. So for example here, you'll see that we've took mark with a K, despite the fact there was one mark with a C. This rule, for example, was take the most common name. You can have as many rules by field as you want, so in case of draws, you can start getting more and more complex. If, however, I decided that I know this, and I know this is marked with a C, I can use this bit of data and I can drag it in. You'll notice as I'm dragging that other things are changing colour. This means this is actually any of these fields I can store this data in. So if I did want to use that field, this value down here, I can just drag that into any different field. Same with phone numbers, I can move phone numbers across. So the extra thing you can do at this point is I don't even need to use any of these predefined values. If I want to override it, so I've got these 4 marks in the system, which so I think I spoke to them at least 4 times, so it is probably a hot lead. So I can now change that. You'll also notice that things are going red as I'm working through it. This is just highlighting to you the sort of data that will not be visible within your system once you've completed your merge. It will absolutely still exist on the records that are marked as inactive, but on the record that is still alive at the end, essentially, that's what you will lose and that's what you will see. So I can also just make a little note here and I can go 4 leads. If I scroll to the bottom, an extra thing you'll see here also is you've got others. So this is designed to mirror the form that you're used to using. If you've got extra fields you want to use, you can also expand, and they've got the other fields down there as well. Once I'm happy, I can now press merge. So that's now merging me all 4 of those leads at the same time. Once that's completed, it will close the window. If I just jump into close leads to show you, you'll see that there's the 3 are closed. If I open one of them, you'll see the prompt that you're used to seeing that says this record was merged. So I can now see that was merged with Mark Carrington. Now, it will take some time to get these rules right for the output record. We're confident that over time you will get those rules to a point where you don't even change the output record. If you do get to that stage, what you can now do is we've introduced an extra feature. So now if I go back to my open leads, I can now select the 9 variations of my name. I can now go to here and I can now quick merge. This quick merge is just bypassing the whole merge screen you see, and we'll take the output record that exists and we'll automatically apply it. So I've now got this one record. And again, if I just jump to close leads, you'll now see that they've all moved to closed. Behind the scenes, this is still using the merge, so all your activities and anything that's related will follow the rules configured in your system as it would normally. Normally, you can only merge count, contact, leads, and cases. We've decided to extend that even further. So if I just jump into an opportunity, and once it loads, you'll now see that I can now merge an opportunity. So it's the same window that you saw previously with the merge this time. Again, I've mentioned the rules, so you can see this is a custom rule here. It's got some revenue, so that's how I've configured it in this system. So I can merge these opportunities, and it will close down, and I will only have a single open opportunity. And finally, if I just jump to a custom entity, I've got 2 here set up, one of which has 3 sub-records, one of which has 7. If I decide I want to do that, I can just do a quick merge on those. And just to prove that the cascade rules are working, you can now see that all 10 are now still attached to Sentity, so it's done as you'd expect. A difficulty that we also find in CRM sometimes is to know what records you wish to merge. To find them enough on the same page to be able to merge them can be difficult. You have to really do a bespoke advanced find or something like that. So we've introduced this idea of remembering records. So if I just jump into a record, up here I've got the option to remember this record, which is clearing some previous remembered ones. So I can now remember this record, and that's now in a memory. So I can now pick a different record entirely, and I can now go to this drop-down box and I can merge remembered. So this is just a way of remembering your route through. It's helpful if you go through your recent records you've been on. We find this particularly useful, for example, if, say, a company changes name, someone doesn't realise, makes a second one of that company, and then you can just go and find both and merge them through. So that is the fixing the duplicates once they're there. So knowing they're there is great. However, it's only half the problem. So what I'd like to move on to now is actually preventing them going forward. So I'm just going to jump into contacts. So if I go into a contact and I go to make a new one. So my colleague that's on the call with me now, Rich Davies, is a fabulous example for this because of his name and all the different ways we can spell it. So I know he works for Data 8. And I'm going to type his name out, and I'm going to purposely type it wrong. I apologize. So already I've been prompted that this could be a duplicate. So the intention here is to try and warn people as early as possible, you may be doing more work than you need to do. We're trying to stop people inputting data so they would go and find the right record. However, as users may, they're going to carry on and ignore that warning. So I'm just going to put his job title in, and I'm going to try and save the record. So this is the duplicate detected window that you're probably used to seeing within a CRM system. However, you'll notice that the duplicate is found. So I've got Rich Davis, D-A-V-I-S, has done a fuzzy match with Rich Davies, I-E-S, and also Richard Davis. So there's potentially 3 in the system, and that's worked off the fuzzy name. What does CRM want you to do at this point? It's always been a bugbear of mine that you've got two choices to make. You can either make this record anyway, then go and find your duplicates and then perform the merge, or discard everything you've done, find the record and type it back out again, and maybe press the wrong key and type the phone number wrong, or type that important bit of information out to be actually being correct, and then it defies the point. So we've now got a merge button in a record that's not really there. So I can now press merge, and this is going to be the same window that we see now. However, we've got the 2 duplicates that we've potentially found and this 3rd record here. This record doesn't even actually really exist. It only exists on my screen at this moment in time. The output record, though, has kicked in with a set of rules and has took that piece of information that I think is important. If I know these aren't the same people still, they don't have to be in the group. I could remove them still. So what I can now do is I can format my person as I want them to look, and I can now press merge. It's not strictly a merge because the record doesn't exist to merge. However, now it's gone through. It's trying to close this record down for me. And it's now reported me to the record that was already in the system with the bit of data that we've now just got. So I'm sure you can see the benefit of not having to retype the data twice and just that extra, remove the extra steps. Try again. We've removed those extra steps required to get the data into the system. If people still ignore your warnings and still create duplicates, we also have a nice dashboard. This dashboard is a duplicate management dashboard, which is designed, it can track who is creating a duplicate still, who is ignoring the warnings. It's doing it by on a window, so by what entity it's also doing it by, and then also who to reward. So Rich Davis is terrible, however, I'm pretty good at fixing them, so that's why we don't get on. Now, you can also see here the types of duplicates we've resolved by date. You can see here that we've extended a lot because we can now merge by any entities, so this is where all these come into play. And that is great for going forward. However, how do you fix everything historically? This is probably the question you get asked most. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into the rules themselves and what drives that. So if I go into an account, you can see that I've got a rule name, it's called account match. I've got a record type that is account to account. And I've decided this is real-time enabled. I've also got here the criteria for the actual rule set itself. So it's designed to mirror advanced find a little bit. This one is a fairly simple one. It's only where status is active, and it's a fuzzy company name match within account name. I'll very briefly show you on this. You've got a whole variety of options that will help you build your fuzzy up. We've used this from our 13 years of data rate existing, and it's all of our knowledge has gone into this, and that's where that comes from. There's also extra rules I can use in here, so I can nest as far as I want to, so I can get very complex. This is also beneficial because there is a limit to how many duplicate detection rules you can have by entity within the system. This only actually uses 1, and everything is based on this. So you can have more than the limit. You can essentially go unlimited. Some of the other rules you'll see on there, if I just remove those out. You've got an exact match, so that's pretty standard. Exact match across fields. This is useful in the case of things like telephone 123, email address 123, so any cross-reference to those fields. Fuzzy company name match, as I've said. Fuzzy address, fuzzy person name, single value, so that's your constant, and finally non-conflicting. So this is if you had a membership ID from somebody and you've got a potential duplicate there, you know that if they've got different membership IDs, it's impossible they're the same person. So that's where the non-conflicting match comes in. So that's the accounts. And if I just show you contacts again within this system, it's a fairly basic version. When it loads in, you'll see that I've got a fuzzy person name from first name, last name, within the same company, and again, only where active. With these fields, you see again, I've got the option so I can do full name, initial, or last name. And again, you get the same sort of options for fuzzy address, so that you can customize them as much as you want to customize them. So now, if I just go back to the account again at the top, you'll notice I've got this run batch feature. This enables me to run this rule set against the system. So if I tap that, I'll get this new record, gives it a name, so just a nice little reference for me, an owner, so it set it to me, and also what rule set I want to run. Because I came from that rule set, it's pre-filled it for me. Auto merge, so this is the quick merge feature we saw earlier. If you decide that once we find a duplicate, you're happy for us to automatically merge it, this is what that will do. So we will handle that for you. Or if not, you can assess the results yourself, which is what I'll get onto. And finally, filtered view. So do you want to run it for every single account in this case, or do you want to run on a filter view? So I might only want to run on active accounts. So that's where that comes to play. In this case, though, I'd run it on all. Now, in true Blue Peter fashion, I've got one I made earlier. So I'm just going to jump into my jobs, and you'll see here that I've got an account one here. So I'm going to open this up. This is the bit we saw before, but because this job is now finished, we've now got a little results tab down here. So when it was finished, how many records were included in the search, of which how many were unique, and therefore how many we think were duplicated, and also potential GDPR red flags. Now I'll move on to that when I get onto contacts, so bear with me. And down here I've got some groups that I've got unsolved. So the idea is that somebody would work through these groups and would cleanse through the system. So up here I've got a resolve duplicates, so I can either click that or I can click an individual one down here. So if I now press resolve duplicates, I see the merge screen that we go through a few times. Now when it loads, you'll see that the duplicate is found is Data EIGHT and Data 8 Limited. So there's your fuzzy company. I can work through, I can see how I want this record to look, and I can now save and next, and that will merge those records. Once that's merged through, you'll get a progress bar that comes across to see how far you are. You've got a reminder to let you know how far you are through it, and then you continue through. So here we go, we've got Facebook and Facebook LLP. I want to keep them separate, so I could just skip those if I want to. So you'll now got no more to resolve, and they've gone. If I refresh that page, you'll see that the two groups that were there will move across to solve groups. Or my CRM will not load, it'll be one of the two options. So now, the option you've got now, there we go. So they've now moved to solve groups. Apologies about that. So fine, now I'm just going to jump into contacts, which is another one I've ran earlier. So the same figures you're used to seeing now, 212 records, 5 duplicates. I've got one potential GDPR red flag. Now, this is designed to use the out-of-the-box permissions field, so the do not email, do not mail. If we find a duplicate with people, and within those duplicates we find a conflict on consent, then we like to highlight it to you because you may have an area to address. So I've sorted here, and I can see this is the person I've got a problem with. So if I now just open this, you'll see that it redirects me. When I've been redirected and it opens up, if I scroll down to my permissions, you can see here that I've got an issue with my do not allow emails. So I need to establish my consent and how I'm going to manage that going forward. So I could decide to do not allow if that was what I decided to do. So that is the idea of fixing historically as well. Now, within the system as well, you'll notice that as I've been navigating around, I've got two extra things on here. So I've got address fields and phone number fields. Now, to do advanced finds and phone numbers can often prove problematic because every person has a different way of putting them in the system. Some people may use +44 for the UK, or they may just do a 0. And also, if you don't know an area code, you might just put it all as a single string, or you make up spaces, all sorts of variations. So in order to assist us doing the duplicate detection, we decided to introduce the idea of standardization. And we've actually enabled that on the system that you can do it yourself on any field that's a phone number field. So if I just briefly jump in there, you'll see that I've got a number of entities, a number of fields set up. So if I go into a lead, just to show you it working, I go into this lead again, I'm going to type out the office phone number for data 8. Now I'm going to do it wrong with multiple spaces in the wrong place, which is very difficult, and it always takes me a little bit of time. So all sorts of spaces. That would make finding advanced finds difficult. So I now save that record. And you'll now see on the save of that record that that's just reformatted into the nice 434 format that we actually are supposed to be. And in a similar vein to that, we also have address. So I can now type an address out. So if I pick a random address that I know is fairly local to our office, so this is one that's over the road, I can be that person that I don't like that puts lowercase in and more causing inconsistencies in the system. So I'm all lowercase and everything. So I now press done and I save that. And again on save, what you'll notice is that I've improved the data. I've even added a town, I've capitalised it, and I've just made it a bit more consistent, which enables me for advanced finds and postcodes would now be much easier to do. This doesn't have to be, again, these don't have to be fields that are used within the rules. So I've configured by entity. This is also global, so this will work at varying levels across each country. There's more details on that where we need them. If I just jump into address field, sorry. So the other thing that does, which is helpful as well, is if someone puts the town and postcode into the wrong field, it will standardise that and make sure things are in the right field. So it ensures that everything is in the right field and is sorted properly. And there you go. So this is where it's configured for a count on those fields. So it doesn't even need to use the standard address 1, address 2 fields that exist already. You can use your road and any custom entity you want. And that in 20 minutes is Duplicare. And I'm now going to pass to Rich, who's got a couple of things to say.
Thanks, Matt. So I think Warren touched upon it earlier, that data quality is now really a business process issue and it's a board level issue. And it affects more than one person in the business, which is why we kind of look at it in 3 different sections: the user, the admin, and the boss. And we all have different opinions. So Matt mentioned earlier about me creating duplicates as a user. I try and do things quick and easy. And what you need to do if you want things quick and easy, you need to make the experience better and easier. So what Duplicare does is it makes our lives easier, 1, not to enter in duplicates, but 2, to ensure that data is as good as possible. And sooner or later, they'll start seeing that actually better data makes life easier for them going forward. They're not getting told off as much, and in fact, their sales cycles are easier. They understand their customers better. From the perspective of Matt, the admin, that's a really big thing, because the data starts becoming more better as it goes on. However, it's not just about that, it's about time and about how much time you actually spend on this. So you want to make your life more efficient and easier, and that's really what Duplicare does. You can see it's native dynamic, so it's not throwing stuff out there that people haven't seen before. And it's going to help you with segmentation, especially with the standardization. As Matt mentioned before, postcodes in the wrong field can really affect on things like understanding where your customers are based. And finally, the boss. The big thing is, does it save time and does it save money? And we can see overall data quality costs you money, and if we can make it so that everything that goes into your system is as good as possible, we can save you money. And retrospectively fixing that with a batch tool will ensure that your data is as good as possible to help you make more money from that data. However, it doesn't just stop there. If you have a lot of stuff like billing errors and sending invoices to the wrong addresses, to the wrong people, it's duplicating those. It will cost your team time and money, and that's really where we're focusing upon, is trying to create ROI out of your data and your system. So I'll throw it back to Warren now, and have you got any questions?
Many thanks, Rich. That's great. Yes, we hope you found that useful. You've seen just how far Duplicare goes beyond the standard controls of Dynamics to fix, find, and prevent duplicate records, but also the extra sort of capabilities it has to improve data quality through standardization of the field formats as well. Please do get in touch if you want to receive a quotation of Duplicare to arrange a free trial, or if you want to discuss any aspects of what we've demonstrated here this afternoon in more detail. We have recorded the presentation, and you'll get a link to this within the next 24 hours. You'll also find recordings of this and all of our recent webinars, including our previous presentation with Data 8 on GDPR and data quality, and that's on our YouTube channel. You could also go to preact.co.uk/webinars where you can find out more about our other events. So we're going to pause for a moment or two to look at the questions that have come through during the presentation. But if you are leaving us at this point, many thanks again for your time, and we do hope you found that useful.